In this video, we will learn Sanskrit basics. It is an attempt to simplify the learning process. I will not teach the grammar, but I will explain with examples how to learn Sanskrit grammar and what are the things we should learn. I will explain the structure of the language. We all know that Sanskrit is an ancient language of Indian subcontinent. It is a matter of pride for us Indians that a great number of classics are composed in this beautiful language. Not only literary masterpieces such as Shakuntalam, but also a number of valuable scientific works on astronomy, mathematics, medicine, metallurgy, and grammar were written in Sanskrit. It is a matter of shame that the study of Sanskrit has not been made compulsory in schools. There is an option to learn this language, but that is only for 2 years and with little emphasis. At least for me, that was the case. People are interested to learn this language, but there is not an easy way to learn it. The grammar of Sanskrit is highly technical, and the grammar books, in my opinion, are not written assuming that people have zero knowledge. This makes things complicated because Sanskrit is not like any other natural languages. We learn languages by listening and reading, but unfortunately, you cannot learn Sanskrit in that way. Why? Because Sanskrit is not like any other natural language like English, French, Hindi, or Bengali. It is almost like a made-up language. People might ask why. Why it is not like other natural languages? Because one might argue that once it was widely used like any other language. The reason is, at least what I think, a highly technical and sophisticated grammar was developed in the very early stages of Sanskrit, which gave it a rigid structure. People started learning it by following the prescribed grammar, and seminal works like Ashtadhyayi helped to create a syllabus-like format to learn this language through grammar. And eventually the grammar took the center stage. Even there is instances where people wrote epics just to show the grammatical beauty, not the literary beauty. No other language can boast this sort of thing. Now, coming back to the grammar part. So, every sentence is composed of words. There are two types of words. One is verb-like, called tinganta, and another is, let's say, all other non-verb-like words, called subanta pada. For example, in this sentence, there is one word related to a verb, go, and there are some other words. Now, there are three things in this sentence: she, go, and market. They are related in some way. The purpose of a language is to show correctly how these things are related. Now, let us take a very big and complex sentence. He normally reads books written by Conan Doyle, the British writer who created the famous detective character Sherlock Holmes, while going to London from Oxford by train on Sundays with his sister Augusta. Now, this is a complex sentence. It means several things. He generally goes to London from Oxford on Sundays. His sister Augusta generally accompanies him, and the person normally reads books written by a particular person, particular author, on such a journey. When this concept will be expressed in Sanskrit, some Sanskrit words will be used. Now those words can be formed in two different ways. One, the words indicating direct verb like reading in this example. Two is all other words. The first type of words, that is the verb related words, will be formed using a particular method from a set of Dhatus. The tool which will be applied on Dhatus are called Ting Pratyaya, and we will call the final words Tinganta Pada. The second type of words will be formed using another method from a set of Pratipadikas. The tool we will apply on Pratipadikas are called Sup Pratyaya. The resulting words will be called Subanta Padas. Now the second mechanism, formation of Subanta Padas, can be a two-step process. We might start from a Dhatu, apply some mechanism on it using some tool called Krit Pratyaya to get a Pratipadika, and then form the Subanta Padas using Sup Pratyayas. Or alternatively, the Subanta Padas can be used directly to form Pratipadikas. There is a renowned English language author in India, I am not taking his name, who said that, if you want to learn Sanskrit, why don't you just read Sanskrit storybooks? Just read a lot and you will learn the language, etc. He is mistaken, I think, because it would be difficult to learn Sanskrit in that way. Let's see why. To understand this, we need to learn how Sanskrit might represent the complex concept discussed before. So there are few concepts or things that are required to express the idea. What are these things? He, book, Sunday, Conan Doyle, etc. Now I vertically stacked the words which describe the same things. In Sanskrit, the words describing the same thing would have same inflection. That is, they would be in the same gender and vibhakti. Additionally, the arrangement of the word does not matter. If there are 10 things related to each other to form an idea, we have 10 factorial ways to represent the idea in Sanskrit. We cannot apply the trick of memorization by repetition. In English, word arrangement is very rigid. So, there is perhaps only a few combinations to represent the complex concept discussed here. You jumble the word and it either would not make any sense or it would mean a completely different thing. as the formation is rigid, one can quickly learn the pattern of sentence formation. If we replace the Conan Doyle with some other author, still we can use our previous experience to get the meaning. But in Sanskrit, the inflections will determine the relation of these words in such a compact and beautiful way that we can almost use any possible combination and still will be able to maintain the meaning, the true meaning. Now, different people will write the same thing in different way using different combination. So, learning by repetition trick cannot be applied. There is a trick, of course. That trick is to learn the grammar by repetition. Learn to form different words with respect to different types of relations with other words, and you will start to unravel the meaning and gradually become an expert. So, every time you see a sentence, in spite of trying to understand the meaning, first you have to understand how the sentence and its words are formed. Then meaning will come out on its own. So, the top-down approach is like this. Our final product is a bunch of words, but how they are formed? They can be formed in different ways. They can come from dhatu via ting vibhakti or ting pratyaya. They can come from dhatu by first forming a pratipadika using krit pratyaya followed by a sup pratyaya to get a subanta pad or word. Or they can directly come from a standalone pratipadika by means of a sup pratyaya or tadhita pratyaya. These terms will be cleared gradually as we go into deep. First, let us concentrate on the verb part. In this example, there is one verb-like word, goes. We discussed that these words, this type of words, comes direct from dhatus. On dhatus, we apply ting pratyaya to get these words. What is a dhatu? We can say these are root words. There is a list of around 2000 such words, and from them we derive other meaningful words appropriate to be used in a sentence. So the good news is Sanskrit dictionary, we can say, is only 2000 words long. Compare it with an Oxford English dictionary, around 300,000 entries. So, one hand we have 2000 words in Sanskrit, and on the other hand we have around 300,000 words. Of course, the bad news is we have to learn a lot of things in order to be able to use these 2000 roots appropriately in different situations. The good news is there are only few mechanisms. One such mechanism we discussed briefly, that is, from dhatu use ting pratyaya to get a verb-like word. There is sup and krit pratyayas as well, which we also discussed. There are more good news. A dhatu is related to a verb or action, and the action can be used in 9 different situations. It depends on the person performing that action. There are 3 persons, like in English: first person, second person, and third person. So, I go, but she goes. So, similar concept is there in Sanskrit as well. In English, the concept is not as extensive as in Sanskrit. In Sanskrit, there are 3 numbers: singular, dual, and plural, which is one more than English. So, in every situation, the dhatu will be used differently. So, we will get 9 different words called tinganta padas after applying ting pratyayas. Those 9 words will be used in corresponding person and corresponding number. That means first person singular or third person dual, etc. So, if we want to say she goes, we will apply a ting pratyaya to modify the verbal root, that is the dhatu related to the action go, and then use the modified form. So, there are 3 cross 3, that is 9 places, and we have to remember 9 different ting pratyayas, that is the tool used to transform dhatus into a verb word. But not quite so easy, because there are 2 types of dhatus. Why? Because of the type of the action and also for different voice, like active passive voice in English. We will not go into detail, but let's assume there are 2 types of dhatus. So, 2000 odd verbal roots in our dictionary is divided into 2 parts: Atmanepadi, Parasmaipadi. The mechanism of how they form a usable verb is same, but the ting pratyaya, that is the tool used for this purpose, is different. So, we have to memorize 2 3 cross 3 tables, each having 9 entries. One for Atmanepadi Dhatu and another for Parasmaipadi Dhatu. Additionally, we have to memorize which verb or which dhatu is in which class. But there are some more bad news. How about tense? In English, he went, he goes, he will go, he is going, he was going, he has been going, he would have gone. We know in English there are a lot of tenses. In Sanskrit, there are 10 tenses. 1 is for present, 3 for past, and 2 is for future. 1 is for command, wish, etc. There are other tenses as well. These tenses are lot, lot, rig, lead, lot, etc. The first letter is la, the second letter is a vowel, the last letter is either nga or ta. So, given a verbal root or dhatu, we have to learn 10 cross 3 cross 3 that is 90 different ways to be able to use it in correct tense, gender and person. Moreover, there are two types of dhatus, Atmanepadi and Parasmaipadi. So we have to learn 2 times 10 times 3 times 3, that is 180 ting pratyayas. Now let us look at one of these tenses. Present tense, lot. We have on one side Pratham Purush, Madhyam Purush, Uttam Purush, and on the other side Ekvachan, Dvivachan, Bahuvachan. The ting pratyayas are for Parasmaipadi ti tas anti, si thas tha, mi bas mas, and for Atmanepadi te ate ante, se ate dve, e bahe mahe. Now let us look into the lot locker and vidhiling, which is for command, wish, etc. For lot, Parasmaipadi is tu tam antu hi tam ta anyabama, and for Atmanepadi tamatam antam thasatham dvam oi abohi amohi. For vidhiling, Parasmaipadi is jat jatam yus yat yatam yata yam abama, and for Atmanepadi ita yatam iran ithas yatham idvam iya ibahi imahi. Now let us look into past tense, lit lokar. For Parasmaipadi we have atus us thathus aba ma. For Atmanepadi we have e ate ire se ate dve e bahe mahe. Now let us look into long lokar, which is also past tense. For Parasmaipadi we have datam on syatam tya ambyama. For Atmanepadi we have toatam antya thasatham dvam i bahi mahi. For another tense, lung, which is also for past, the ting vibhaktis are same. For future tense, we have 2 lokaras. One is lut, which is for Parasmaipadi tatarau taras, tasi tasthas tastha, tasmi tasbas tasmas. For Atmanepadi tatarau taras, tase tasaye tadve, tahe tasbahe tasmahe. And we will give another example, the last example, which is lit, another tense for future. Sati satas santi, sasi satas satas, syami syavas syamas. This is for Parasmaipadi. For Atmanepadi we have syate sete swante, syase swete swadve, swe swavahe swamahe. So you can see there seems to be some similarity, and believe me, it is not difficult to memorize these 10 tables. Once you sit down and try to look into them, try to remember their similarities, then it is not that difficult. But there are some bad news again. Out of these approximately 2000 dhatus, some has a special rule of inserting the letter E in various situations, like during the transformation using krit pratyayas, which is applied on dhatus to get pratipradikas. This mechanism is called idagama, and to understand which of the dhatus conform to this rule, we divide dhatus into 3 different groups: set, anit, vet. Set means insertion of E would be prescribed. On it means there would be no insertion of E, the letter E, and wait means the idagama would be optional. So we have to memorize which dhatu belongs to which of these three classes. Given a dhatu, we have to remember whether it is atmanepadi or parasmaipadi. Also, we have to remember whether it is set, on it or wait. So, this is our chart for ting pratyaya. Don't worry, you will find it in a lot of places if you search in the internet. For now, just understand the structure. So, we have 180 ting pratyayas for 10 different tenses. Each of the tenses has two tables, one for parasmaipadi dhatus, another is for atmanepadi dhatus. Each of these tables are 3x3 table for ekvachan, dvivachan, bahuvachan, prathama purush, madhyam purush and uttama purush. Apart from this chart, we have to also know whether a dhatu is atmanepadi or parasmaipadi, and also we have to know whether the dhatu is set, wait or on it. That means whether idagama would be prescribed or not. Now, can we say we are done? No. We have got 10 tables. Each has 2x3x3, that is 18 ting vibhakti. We also memorized whether a dhatu is atmanepadi or parasmaipadi, so that we can use the correct table. Now what? The bad news is not every dhatu follow the same rule. What then is the point of memorizing all these tables? Well, they do not follow exactly, they follow mostly. That means there are some patterns, so there is some hope of making some progress. So what is that hope? What is good news? There are only 10 types of different patterns. Also, the variations are minimal. So we divide 2000 odd dhatus into 10 groups called gana. We have more good news. Difference in these 10 classes or ganas are only for 4 of the tenses, which is lot, long, lot, vidhiling. All other 6 tenses are the same for all the 10 ganas. So, how these 10 ganas are different? They just insert one additional letter while forming tinganta pada. Here we present a concrete example. For example, the 4th group inserts a letter ya. So the verb yud, which is in 4th gana or 4th group and which is also atmanepadi, while used in lot, pratham purush, ekvachan, becomes yud plus ya because it is in 4th gana, which inserts a zya, and atmanepada pratham purush Ekvachan lot, which is te, to form the word yudhyate. See how easy the formation is. We know yud is in 4th class. 4th class inserts a ya, and we want to use it in present tense, which is lot, and we know yud is atmanepada. So we use the ting vibhakti te to form the word yudhyate. Let us look into another example, which is push. It is 9th class, 9th gana, called kradi gana, and we know it is parasmaipadi dhatu. So 9th gana or kradi gana inserts na after the dhatu. So push plus na plus lat lakar ekavachan prathama purush vibhakti is ti combines together to form the pushnati. Now this dantyanya has become murdhanya by some other rule of nyatya vidhi, but the mechanism is quite simple. Now coming back to what we have to memorize. So we have the word goes. We have to use its correct form. So we identify the dhatu which describe the action of going, which is gam dhatu, and then we identify it will be applied to the person he, because the word he is responsible for that action. And then as he is 3rd person singular number and it is present tense, we identify the lot lokar ting vibhakti of 1st person singular number. Then we have to identify the verb gam is atmanepadi or parasmaipadi, and based on that we have to choose the correct ting pratyaya. So we have to memorize 180 ting pratyayas. We have to memorize which verb is in which class, and also we have to know that gam dhatu is in which gana out of these 10 ganas, so that we can insert the correct letter while forming the tinganta pada corresponding to the word goes. Now one question might arise: how can only 2000 dhatus can describe so many verbs? The answer to this question is we have some other mechanism to expand our list. What are those? First of all, we have 20 odd prefix or upasargas. Prapara apasam niyavanu nir durbi adhisu utpari pratyavi atiapi upa. We can use these prefixes for slightly different meaning and sometimes the same meaning. For example, let's say the verbal root or dhatu yud, instead of yuddhate, we can use the upasarga pra in front to create the word prayudhyate, which might have the same meaning but might also have some different meaning. And not only that, we can use combination of these upasargas as well in the front of a dhatu to create different tinganta padas. So in that way we can create new words having new meaning. Not only that, we have only a list of 2000 dhatus, but we can create new dhatus using different types of pratyayas from either dhatus or from pratipadikas. For example, there are some pratyaya called nam dhatu pratyaya. If we apply them on pratipadika, then we can get new dhatus. Similarly, using our already developed dhatus, we can apply different pratyayas to create new dhatus. For example, nich pratyaya can be applied to a dhatu to impart the meaning in causative sense. That means, if we take the dhatu corresponding to the action hearing, and if we want to describe to cause to hear, then we can apply nich pratyaya on the dhatu and get a new dhatu which will mean to cause to hear. Similarly, there is another pratyaya, san pratyaya, which depicts the sense of desire. That means, for example, desire to drink. Drink is a separate dhatu, but if we apply san pratyaya on it, we get a new dhatu which means desire to drink. Similarly, we have yang pratyaya, which means repetitive action. For example, repetitive beating, repetition or frequently doing something. In that sense, we can apply yang pratyaya on a dhatu to derive a new dhatu having a meaning of repetitiveness. So, we have different pratyayas which we can use to create new dhatu from either already developed dhatu or from pratipadikas. Now, we know that from our list of dhatus, we can apply krit pratyaya on them to get pratipadika. And on this pratipadika, if we apply nam dhatu pratyaya, then we get a new dhatu. So we can see it is a circular thing and we can create lots of new dhatus in this way by going through the circle. Now, one question might arise, why so much emphasis on dhatus? Because Sanskrit is a dhatu-heavy language. Let me explain. So, in English, verbs are few. There are a lot of other words which has nothing to do with verbs. But in Sanskrit, it turns out most of the words are derived from dhatu in one way or another. For example, if we look here in this complex sentence, we can see only the words reads, created, going, written are related to some action or verb. Also, we can say the word writer and detective also have some relation with some action. But in Sanskrit, most of the words are formed using dhatus, using one of these roots. Which are these roots? From a dhatu, we can directly apply ting pratyaya to get a tinganta pad, which is a verb word, or we can start from a stand-alone pratipadika. We apply sup pratyaya on it to get subanta padam, or we can start from a dhatu, apply on it some krit pratyaya, and then get a pratipadika which we use to form a subanta pada with the help of sup pratyaya. Additionally, from a dhatu, we can create new dhatu and go to either tinganta root or either subanta root. Or we can go in a circular fashion. From a dhatu, we can use krit pratyaya to get pratipadika, and from the pratipadika, we can get a new dhatu by applying nampada pratyaya and then go to any of these roots. So this is the crux of Sanskrit grammar. The words are formed from either dhatu or pratipadika in one of these roots, and we have to learn Sanskrit grammar to understand this mechanism. I will give some example why I said Sanskrit is a Dhatu-heavy language. Let's look into the example given here. He himself cooks this. I myself did this. They themselves went there. We can use a special word in Sanskrit, swayam, to describe the concept of himself, myself, or themselves. But if we look into the English, we can see this concept is related to he, I, or they. But in Sanskrit, we can use a krit pratyaya called kelim pratyaya on the verb itself, the verb cook, the verb do, or the verb go, to express the same concept. So, the himself, myself, themselves would not be attached to he, I, or they. Rather, the concept would be attached to the verb cook, do, or go by using a krit pratyaya called kelim pratyaya. So we can see in Sanskrit, dhatu has a lot more emphasis. It has a lot more complex mechanism to express a concept, to express relation between words. Let me give another example how dhatus are used. One can create a sentence without verb in Sanskrit. How? We take a dhatu and using different tense indicating krit pratyayas such as shatri, shanach, kta or ktabatu, we can get pratipadikas, and we can use those pratipadikas in lieu of direct tinganta padas. So it is possible to create sentences without verb in different tenses using only pratipadikas, but those pratipadikas would be derived from dhatu only using some tense indicating krit pratyaya. In that way, we can create sentence without a verb, but we need to take the help of dhatu to create such sentences. That's why dhatu is very important in Sanskrit language. Now, coming back to an example, we more or less got some idea about the treatment of the verbs. So in this sentence, the verb is go. Which tense? It is present tense. So lot. Who goes? He goes, which is third person singular. So we search the dhatu related to go, which is, let's say, gam dhatu, which is parasmaipadi. We see it is in prathama gana, which is first class out of 10 different classes. Vadi gana. We use appropriate letter of insertion, appropriate entry from our Ting Vibhakti table for lot, which is Parasmaipadi table. There are some nuances like duplication of verbal roots. That means the dhatu will be duplicated before forming the Tiganta pada, but we will not go into that deep. Now, it solves for just one word in this example. How about other words? There are other things in this sentence like he, London, Oxford, train, Sunday. Other words are formed from pratipadikas using sup vibhakti. We have to use sup vibhaktis on these words to express their relation. The original words are called pratipadikas. Their sup vibhakti forms, let's call it supified forms, will be used in the sentence to convey the correct relation among each other. In English, how the relation is expressed? We can see he is going to London, so we use the word to. He is coming from Oxford, so we use the word from. He is going by train, so we use the word by before the word train. When he is going on Sunday, so we use the word on before Sunday. In that way, using different words to, from, by, on, we connect those words in the sentence to convey a meaning. In Sanskrit, the same process would be done by sup vibhakti. There are 7 sup vibhaktis and 7 for singular, 7 for dual and 7 for plural. If the subject is singular, then the subject will have prathama vibhakti and singular form. If it is dual, it would have prathama vibhakti dual form, and if it is plural, then it would have prathama vibhakti plural form. There are 7 such vibhaktis. For object, we use Ditiya vibhakti, that is vibhakti number 2. To express the word by with, we use third vibhakti. To express the word for or for the sake of, we use fourth vibhakti. To express the word from, than, etc., we use fifth vibhakti. To express the word of, we use sixth vibhakti. And to express the word to, in, at, on, out of, among, into, we use saptami vibhakti. So now let us go back and look our sentence. So London will go to the 7th row. Sunday will go to the 7th row because on and to are 7th row. And Oxford will go to the 5th row, that is Panchami Vibhakti. And the train will go to the 3rd row, that is Tritiya Vibhakti. So we have to know the correct Vibhakti of these words in order to use them in the sentence which express the meaning he goes to London from Oxford by train on Sunday. So we have to memorize a table of 7 cross 3, 3 for singular, dual and plural, and 7 for 7 vibhaktis. Additionally, we have another row which is for vocative, which is for addressing, which is mostly similar to the first row in most of the cases. Now, more memorization for subvibhakti. So, there are different words. We have to apply one of these 21 subvibhaktis on them so that we can derive their proper form to be used in the sentence so that the sentence conveys the correct meaning. These vibhaktis are su o yas, o shas, ta bham vis, nge bham bhas, etc. So there are 7 cross 3, that is a table of 21 entries which we have to memorize. There are some issues. So there are a lot of words, lot of pratipadikas. Do all of them have the same type of changes while used in one of these boxes, one of these rows? The answer is no. There are some differences, but also there are some patterns. So, if we can memorize this pattern, the table, 7 cross 3 table called Sabdarupa table, then we can derive the correct word. Now some bad news. As I mentioned, not all the words follow the same rule. Additionally, there are 3 genders, male, female and neuter, and their forms are different. But there are good news. Good news is the dissimilarities or the aberration is not at all the places. It's only few places here and there. There are some more good news. Words having the same last letter generally follow the same rule for subvibhakti. So, we have a 7 cross 3 table and we have 3 different tables for 3 different genders. And let's say we have around 60 odd letter in Sanskrit. That means we have to memorize 60 cross 7 cross 3 cross 3, which is a lot. So it's kind of impossible to memorize that many subvibhaktis. But good news is Sanskrit words does not end with just any letter. By construction, words end with just a few selected letters. For example, there is no female word which ends at O. So, if we can memorize these few differences, the few special rules, then we can memorize the Subanta forms of a lot of Pratipadikas. Now, what we have to memorize? So, there are 3-4 things we have to memorize to learn Sanskrit. First is Ting Vibhakti table, which is 180 entries corresponding to 10 lokara or tenses. Each tense having 2 tables, one for Atmanepadi, another for Parasmaipadi. Also, we have to know which dhatu falls into which gana so that we can pick the correct word to be inserted while forming the Tinganta Pada. Secondly, to form the Subanta Padas, we have to memorize a 7x3 table, and also we have to memorize a few special cases for different words ending in different letters to form the correct Subanta Pada. Also, we have to memorize a list of few pratyayas and their use to loop through Dhatu and Pratipadika so that we can create new Dhatu from Dhatu, we can create new Pratipadika from Dhatu, or we can create new Dhatu from Pratipadika. The most important of them is Krit Pratyaya, which is used in general to form Pratipadika from Dhatu. Also, we can form new Pratipadika from already developed Pratipadika using some other type of pratyayas called Tadhita Pratyaya. We can use the female gender using Stri Pratyaya. So, we have to know a list of different pratyayas so that we can go back and forth from Dhatu to Pratipadika. So, the recap is that we have a sentence and this sentence has different things. One of the thing would be the verb, which we will be forming from a Dhatu directly using Ting Pratyaya. For that, we have to memorize a table of 180 entries. And there would be some other words like he, London, Oxford, train, etc. Those words would be formed from Pratipadika using Supratyaya. We have to memorize a table of 7x3 to form the Subanta Padas. And also we have to know some Krit Pratyaya, some Tadhita Pratyaya, some Stri Pratyaya, etc. to loop through the circle of Dhatu and Pratipadika. Thank you for watching this video.